The courthouse stood tall in the middle of the city, gray stone walls catching the early morning light. People moved through the wide front doors in steady lines. Shoes echoed on the floor, bags were checked, and quiet tension filled the air. It was the kind of place where voices stayed low and faces stayed serious. Everyone had somewhere to be, and most of them already felt tired. Maya walked in alone. She wore a simple dark coat and carried a plain brown folder. Her hair was tied back neatly. Nothing about her stood out. She looked like someone coming for paperwork, maybe a hearing, maybe a meeting. Still, she moved with purpose. Her steps were calm and measured, and her eyes took in every detail around her. Maya had learned to observe before she spoke. Years of experience had taught her that silence could be powerful. She noticed the guards at the doors, the cameras in the corners, and the way some people were treated better than others. She had seen this pattern many times before. The security line moved slowly. A mother held her child close. An old man leaned on his cane. A young worker checked his phone again and again. When Maya reached the front, a tall officer stepped into her path. His name tag read Ron. His uniform was clean, and his badge shined brightly, but his expression was sharp and careless. Ron lifted his hand and stopped her. "Wait," he said. Maya stopped without complaint. She stood straight and looked at him calmly. "What's that?" Ron asked, pointing at her folder. "Work papers," Maya replied. Ron reached out and took the folder without asking. He flipped through the pages roughly, not really reading. His eyes moved back to her face, slow and judging. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Inside," Maya said. Her voice was steady. Ron snorted softly. "You people always say that." The words hung in the air. A few people nearby heard him. Some looked uncomfortable. Others pretended not to notice. Maya felt a familiar pressure in her chest, but she did not react. She had learned long ago that anger could cloud the moment. Ron stepped closer. Too close. His shadow fell over her shoes. He tilted his head and smiled in a way that held no kindness. "You think you're special," he said quietly. Maya met his eyes. "I think I deserve respect," she answered. That was when Ron turned his head and spit. It hit the floor near her feet. The sound was sharp and clear in the quiet space. A gasp moved through the line. A woman whispered something under her breath. A man clenched his jaw. Maya did not move at first. She looked down slowly, then back up. Her face showed no fear and no rage. Only control. The moment stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Ron laughed. "Problem?" he asked. Maya took a slow breath. "Officer," she said, "you are being watched." Ron shrugged. "By who?" Maya reached into her coat pocket with calm hands. People leaned forward slightly. Even Ron's smile wavered. She pulled out a badge and held it up at chest level. It was not a small badge. It carried weight. The word captain was clear. The room went silent. Ron's face drained of color. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. He straightened his posture too late. "I'm Captain Maya Lewis," she said. "Internal affairs." Whispers filled the space. Phones came out. Eyes widened. Ron stepped back. "I didn't know," he said quickly. Maya lowered the badge but did not put it away. "That does not matter," she replied. "What matters is how you treated a citizen in front of witnesses." She looked around the room. Everyone here saw what happened. Ron swallowed. It was a misunderstanding. Maya shook her head. No. It was a choice. She turned and walked past the gate without stopping. Another officer opened the path for her, hands shaking slightly. Maya moved deeper into the courthouse, her steps still calm, but her mind already working. This was not just about her. It never was. It was about the pattern, the silence, the belief that power could hide behind a uniform. Maya had spent years climbing the ranks, facing doubt at every step. She remembered her first day on the job, when no one took her seriously. She remembered being ignored, talked over, and tested again and again. She remembered deciding she would not become quiet. She would become strong. Inside the building, she paused near a window. Sunlight spilled across the floor. She looked down at her badge once more, then closed her eyes briefly. Today was not over. Not even close. Ron stood frozen behind her, knowing his life had just changed. The people in line whispered, some in shock, some in quiet relief. A few nodded to themselves. For the first time that morning, the air felt different. Something had shifted. And this was only the beginning. The hallway inside the courthouse felt colder than before. Maya walked forward with steady steps, but her thoughts were sharp and focused. She had come for a meeting, but now her mission had changed. Moments like this were never planned, yet they revealed more truth than any report ever could. Behind her, the security area slowly returned to noise. People whispered to each other, replaying what they had seen. Some looked angry. Some looked relieved. A few looked hopeful. Ron remained near the gate, standing stiff, pretending to watch the line, but his hands trembled slightly. He knew the rules. He also knew he had broken them in front of too many eyes. Maya turned a corner and entered a quiet office space. She paused and leaned lightly against the wall. She allowed herself one slow breath. Not because she was weak, but because control mattered. She had learned that leadership was not about raising a voice. It was about knowing when to listen and when to act. She checked the time. Her meeting was still scheduled, but now she needed witnesses. Truth grew stronger when people spoke together. She pulled out her phone and sent a short message to her team. It was simple and clear. Report to Courthouse Level 2. Immediate review. As she walked, memories returned. She remembered her early days in uniform, when doors felt heavier and voices felt louder. She remembered being told to smile more, to speak less, to wait her turn. She had waited. She had worked. She had earned every step forward. In a small waiting area, she saw a woman from the line earlier. The woman sat quietly, holding her bag tightly. Maya recognized the look. It was the look of someone who had seen too much but was afraid to speak. Maya approached gently. "You were there earlier," she said. The woman looked up, surprised. "Yes," she replied softly. "Would you be willing to share what you saw?" Maya asked. The woman hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I think it matters." Maya thanked her and noted her name. Soon, others joined. A man who had clenched his jaw. A young worker who had seen everything. One by one, they spoke. Their words were calm, but their meaning was strong. Each voice added weight to the moment. Downstairs, Ron was called aside by another officer. His face stayed tight as he followed instructions. He avoided eye contact. The building felt different to him now. Every sound felt louder. Every glance felt heavier. He realized that silence would not protect him anymore. Maya's team arrived quickly. They were professional and focused. They listened without interrupting. They took notes carefully. There was no rush. Truth did not need speed. It needed clarity. Maya stood near the window again as the process began. Sunlight crossed her face. She watched people move through the courthouse. Life continued. It always did. But inside these walls, small moments could lead to real change. One of her team members approached her. "We have enough to begin," he said. Maya nodded. "Then we begin." The review started quietly. No shouting. No drama. Just facts. Actions. Witness accounts. Policy. Responsibility. This was how real accountability worked. It was not about punishment alone. It was about correction. Word began to spread through the building. Officers whispered. Staff looked thoughtful. Some felt nervous. Others felt hopeful. For many, This was the first time they had seen someone stand calmly and change the direction of a moment. Ron sat alone in a small room. He replayed the event in his mind again and again. He thought about the way he had laughed, the way he had assumed power meant protection. He felt a weight he had never felt before. Not anger, not fear, but awareness. Upstairs, Maya finished the initial report. She signed her name and closed the file. She felt no pride and no satisfaction, only resolve. She knew this would not be the last case. It never was. But each step mattered. As she prepared to leave the courthouse, the woman from earlier approached her again. "Thank you," she said simply. Maya smiled gently. "Thank you for speaking," she replied. Outside, the city moved as usual. Cars passed. People walked. The sky remained wide and open. Maya stepped into the light and took another calm breath. Change did not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrived quietly, with a badge shown at the right moment and courage shared by ordinary people. And this story was still unfolding. The next morning arrived quietly, but the courthouse did not feel the same. Maya returned early, before most staff arrived. The building was calm, almost too calm, as if it was holding its breath. She walked through the doors with the same steady steps, but now people noticed. Heads turned. Some nodded. Others looked away. Maya did not seek attention. She never had. She believed that real work happened when no one was watching. Still, she understood that moments like yesterday left marks. They changed how people saw authority and how they saw themselves. She entered her office and placed the folder on the desk. Inside were statements, notes, and timelines. Each page carried a voice. She sat down and read everything again, slowly. She wanted to be sure. Fairness required care. Leadership required patience. Down the hall, conversations began. Officers spoke in lower voices than usual. Some felt uneasy. Some felt exposed. A few felt proud that something wrong had been addressed. Change often brought discomfort before clarity. Ron arrived later than usual. His uniform was neat, but his eyes were tired. He avoided familiar paths and took a longer route through the building. Every step felt heavier than the last. He had spent the night thinking, replaying every word, every choice. For the first time in a long while, he questioned himself. In a small meeting room, Maya gathered her team. The discussion was focused and calm. No one raised their voice. They reviewed conduct, past reports, and patterns. One incident alone was serious, but patterns told deeper stories. Maya listened more than she spoke. When she did speak, her words were clear and measured. "This is not about one person," she said. "This is about how power is used when no one thinks it will be challenged." The team nodded. They understood. They had worked with her long enough to know her values. She did not believe in public blame. She believed in responsibility. Later that day, Ron was asked to speak. He entered the room slowly and sat down. He did not look at Maya at first. When he finally did, he saw no anger in her face. Only expectation. He spoke carefully. He admitted his actions. He did not excuse them. His voice shook once, then steadied. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought my position meant I could act without consequence." Maya nodded slightly. "Position means you are held to a higher standard," she replied. The room was quiet. Everyone felt the weight of her words. Ron lowered his head. For the first time, he understood that respect was not demanded. It was earned, and it could be lost. Outside the room, staff members waited, curious and anxious. Some had never seen accountability handled with such calm strength. It made them think about their own actions, their own choices. As the review continued, more stories surfaced. Not dramatic ones. Small ones. Moments of unfair treatment. Quiet discomfort. Missed chances to speak up. Each story mattered. Maya ensured every voice was heard. She thanked people for their honesty. She reminded them that courage did not always look loud. Sometimes it looked like truth spoken softly. By evening, the building felt different again. Not lighter, but clearer. People moved with more awareness. Conversations sounded more thoughtful. A shift was happening, slow but real. Maya stood by the window once more, watching the sun dip low. She thought about her journey. The nights she doubted herself. The days she pushed forward anyway. She had not come this far to stay silent. A young officer approached her hesitantly. "Captain," he said, "thank you." "For what?" Maya asked. "For showing us how it should be done," he replied. Maya smiled gently. "Just do your part," she said. "That's enough." As she packed her things, she knew the hardest part was not over. Change always faced resistance. But it also inspired growth. She was ready for both. Outside, the city lights began to glow. Maya stepped into the evening, calm and steady as always. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, something important had begun to take root. And the final outcome was still ahead. The final day of the review arrived with clear skies and a quiet city. Maya walked into the courthouse one last time for this case, her steps steady and her mind focused. The building felt calmer now, as if it had learned how to breathe again. People greeted her with small nods and respectful distance. No one whispered today. There was nothing left to hide. Inside the main conference room, the final report waited on the table. Pages were stacked neatly. Every statement had been checked. Every detail had been reviewed. The process had been slow, but it had been fair. Maya believed fairness was the strongest form of justice. Her team gathered around the table. Each member looked serious, but also confident. They had done the work properly. Maya thanked them quietly. She did not need long speeches. They understood the importance of what they had done together. Ron was brought in shortly after. He looked different now. Not weaker, but aware. He stood straight and listened as the findings were read. There was no anger in the room. Only clarity. Responsibility was explained. Expectations were made clear. Maya spoke at the end. "This is not the end of your career," she said calmly. "But it is a turning point. What you do after today matters." Ron nodded. "I understand," he said. His voice was steady. He meant it. The decision was finalized. Corrective steps were set in place. Training would be expanded. Supervision would improve. The goal was not shame. The goal was change. Real change that would last beyond this one moment. When the meeting ended, Maya closed the folder and stood. She felt no relief, only quiet resolve. She knew there would be more cases like this. But she also knew that each one made the system stronger. As she walked out of the room, the woman from the security line appeared again. This time she smiled. "I wanted to see how it ended," she said. Maya smiled back. "It doesn't really end," she replied. "It continues." Outside, reporters waited, but Maya passed them calmly. She did not stop for attention. Her work did not need applause. It needed consistency. She stepped into the sunlight and paused for a moment. The city moved around her, unaware of the small but meaningful shift that had taken place inside those walls. People hurried to work. Cars passed. Life went on. Maya thought about the young officers who would learn from this case. She thought about the citizens who would feel a little safer. She thought about the power of standing still and speaking calmly when others expected silence. That night, Maya returned home and placed her badge on the table. She sat quietly, reflecting. She remembered why she had joined in the first place. Not for power. Not for status. But to protect fairness. The next morning, the courthouse opened again. Lines formed. Guards stood at their posts. But something was different now. Eyes were more aware. Voices were more careful. Respect felt closer. Maya walked back into her role, ready for the next challenge. She knew change was not fast, but it was possible. And it always began with one moment of courage.